Oh, it didn't take that long. This is a Norfolk Southern Railroad crossing. It's got two tracks. It crosses the intersection of 12th Street and Voltee Street at a 45-degree angle. It also crosses the entrance to the Merchant Square Mall. There are gates on all four sides of this crossing. And the side where the Merchant Square Mall entrance is located has a cantilever. This is crossing number 592413C. On two sides of this intersection there are stop signs. This is the four-way intersection. How I discovered this crossing is actually very interesting. I had an interview for a job as a school bus driver, and you can actually see the company back there where all those school buses are located. On my way to that place, I crossed this railroad crossing, and I thought to myself, well, this is very interesting. I might want to get this on camera. This railroad crossing is located in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Oh, sounds like another train's headed this way. You can hear it blowing its horn at a nearby crossing. Okay, I'm going to show you this crossing from a few other angles. See? Okay. What's this? It says, warning, buried fiber optic cable in this vicinity. Violators subject to prosecution for relocation. Okay. Basically, it's a warning telling you not to dig because there are cables under the ground. And you're subject to a fee if you do dig without a permit. Now, so far, I haven't seen any trains at all coming from that direction. Oh, look at that, an airplane. Well, would you look at that? There's someone walking down the tracks. That is very dangerous and you should not do that. I highly advise against this, what this guy is doing. Not only is what he's doing dangerous, but he's also on the track where the train would not be facing him. It would be coming from behind it, so he wouldn't even be able to see if there was any oncoming trains. But now he's on the other track where the train would be facing him. Well, in a perfect world, because let's face it, freight trains don't always operate in the same direction. If this were a passenger railroad, for the most part, the trains would be operating on the right-hand track, but freight trains sometimes use the left-hand track. So even that's not something to go by to determine whether it's safe to walk on a specific track. So, like I said, I highly advise against this. What this guy is doing is not safe. So, we finally have another train approaching. This time it's coming from this direction. Wonder what type of train it's going to be. stopping on the tracks. You know, I think that last truck actually shifted on the railroad crossing, which is actually against the law. You should never shift on a railroad crossing. The obvious reason is you could accidentally stall the vehicle, which could result in you getting stuck on the tracks. So that's not a good thing to do, even if it was legal. Anyway, I think I might have been standing a little bit too close because the wind from that train almost blew the the ID tag that I was wearing right off of me. At that point, I imagined myself going to the warehouse and then being like, I lost my ID tag, so I'm gonna need another one. Then it'll be like, well, what happened to the one you had? And they'll be like, well, it got blown off by a train. After watching people drive across that railroad crossing, it looks like a lot of people don't know the proper technique for making a turn at that intersection. So I'm going to show you using techniques that I learned when I was a truck driver. They actually teach you this in truck driving school, how to make a 90-degree turn at a railroad crossing that crosses a four-way intersection at a 45-degree angle. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drive to that railroad crossing and I'm going to make a 90-degree right turn and a 90-degree left turn so I can show you what it's supposed to look like. Hey, look at that, a Dash 9. They always time these things so that every other light is red. It doesn't make sense to me. All it does is slow down traffic. What they should do is program a group of them to be green at the same time. Okay, we're finally at I-78. Gonna take the I-78. Why did one zoom at me? That's the first time a truck driver has ever blown their horn at me. He's actually driving too close behind me though. Exit 57, right? Yes, I believe so. I think exit 55 is going to park. Keep right at the fork. Down a flake lane. That is a weird name for a street. Well, now I gotta stop before I make the turn because it's perfect. Okay, we're approaching the railroad crossing. Now, like I said, first I'm gonna make a right turn at this intersection. Okay, I got my right turn signal on. I don't have to stop because there's no stop sign. I am checking to make sure it's safe to cross. Actually, I don't have to do that because the track is to the left of me. The crossing just came on. Let's turn around and watch the train go through. That's actually the first time a crossing came on just as I finished crossing it. And this is the first time that I've ever had to wait for a train at a railroad crossing since I started driving. Yeah, it looks like it's a maintenance of way vehicle. It's a truck pulling a bunch of gondolas. Is the car? Okay. The car is in neutral with the parking brake applied. You know, I never knew you could couple those trucks to freight cars. And there's another vehicle following it. Okay, now I'm going to make a left turn, but since this is a stop sign, I have to wait for the cars that are on the other two roads. Now, notice that when I'm making this left turn, I'm stopping behind the railroad crossing sign. That is for the obvious reason that you don't want the gates to fall on your vehicle. If you do, you can't move because moving will damage the gate. Okay, so I'm looking both ways before crossing. I already checked the road to make sure it was safe before I started to pull out. Now, a lot of people making a left turn at this intersection, they inch forward and then stop on the tracks. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to stop behind the sign and then make the left turn from there. After it's safe, after you've looked both ways and made sure there weren't any cars or trains crossing. Always stop behind the sign before making the turn. Never stop on the tracks. Never stop between the tracks and the sign. These techniques I learned at a truck driving school. Sadly, they don't teach you that when learning how to drive a car. But it is something you should know.